the next show I'm going to talk about is Supercell. The one of the hottest superhero shows that's on the block currently that a lot of people have been discussing at length on the internet. Supercell is a British superhero television series developed by both Netflix and Rapman. If you don't know who Rapman is, he's a rapper. He produces, he screenwrites, he directs, he does all kind of things. He's kind of a legend in London a little bit, but he came up with this show where it's going to be set in modern day London, and this series is about pretty much a group of 5 different individuals who exist kind of within the same area ish. They exist within the same area, but they're all tied together because one, they all have a family history of sickle cell, but not sickle cell themselves. But because of that gene, the sickle cell gene they are given superpowers. Thus, the title Supercell. Your powers are tied to your family history of sickle cell. And so they randomly, this is an origin, so they randomly start to develop superpowers. They're all individually like, what the hell is going on? Not only that, but they're all kind of being tracked down by this secret organization who is trying to control them and to learn about them. And yeah, there's also some other things that transpire, but one of our main characters is trying to prevent something that happens in the future, and that's the show. He has to get all these 5 people together in order to prevent this thing from happening. And yeah, it's fun. It's a fun watch. There's only 6 episodes. But there's a couple of moments that do feel like, oh man, this could be a little corny, or it is a little corny. But overall, I had an okay time with the show. For what it was, I love being able to see Black people with powers, because what it means for us is always different than what it means for anybody else. And that's why I love that the powers are tied to sickle cell. Again, very much predominantly or well known to be in Black people specifically, is sickle cell. And so kind of making something that is a weakness potentially in the DNA of Black people and turn it into a strength is an interesting premise for me. And seeing where they take that in the show and the different things that these characters go through in the show was interesting for me. But yeah, I'm pretty sure there'll be a season 2. I think it had a lot of views upon its release. I'm pretty sure it ended up in Netflix top 10 at some point. But yeah, I think Rapman had a successful show on his hands, man. I think there's a lot to still talk about as the show again potentially gets future seasons. But yeah, it was the hottest thing out for a while. A lot of people were talking about it, but I enjoy watching it.
Yeah, it's a solid show for sure. I do. I enjoy the pacing of it in particular because it definitely kicks into high gear almost immediately. And it's also an incredibly violent show, too. They do not pull punches when it comes to the violence and the fact that, like, okay, once again, similar to a world like The Boys, if real people had powers, what would that look like? That would not be glossy and sexy like Marvel or DC. In actuality, this is going to cause a lot of pain and destruction and death. And people who don't even know how to use and maneuver these powers have to become accustomed to it. And we see people in the show, as they discover that they have these powers, they don't know their own strength. And so a lot of accidents happen. People, get fucking pummeled. It's pretty entertaining. I will point out, man, I think hopefully if they do get a season 2, I want Netflix to increase their budget, because in the early episodes, some of the CGI was wow.
Yeah,
it was.
I agree.
But you know what? To be fair, though, CGI on television always looked like that. It wasn't until Disney Plus came around where our expectations adjusted, where it's like, oh yeah, now everything looks like a theatrical movie. And that's just an unreasonable expectation. However, I will say they still could have made some of those early CGI shots better. It gets better later in the show. Like by the end of it, it wasn't as noticeable. But I remember the first time a body goes flying in the show, it looked so bad. It was like, yo, no, that's not a real thing. This looks like it's a pixelated meme that got inserted into the scene. Like it did not look real at all. But it does get better as the show goes on. But it's a solid show. I found myself, pretty entertained by it.
I did want to add one last thing. If anybody's ever seen Misfits, this show feels like Misfits to me.
Oh, I remember Misfits. Yeah,
bruh, it's literally a British superhero show about a bunch of delinquents. They did something bad. They all have to serve community service. A storm hits exactly where they are, and now all these delinquents get superpowers. really reminds me of that show a lot when I was watching it. I had to bring that up because it was like uncanny as I was watching. I was like, this hat, if it's not an influence, like if Rapman has not seen Misfits, this is a very impressive like take on that. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
No doubt about it.